I am Eliziam and welcome to my channel. So in last week's video, I introduced myself, I talked about the purpose of this channel and the kind of things that you can expect to see here. And in order for you to get to know me a bit better, I played a game of 3 things with you. And I told you 3 things about me, 2 of which were true and 1 was false. And I asked you to try and guess which one the false one was and to stick it in the comments. So a big thank you to everybody who commented on the video. I really appreciate that. And congratulations to the people who got it right. That was Andrew, Donna, Teg, Nick and Laura. Well done. The 3 things were 1, that I got rescued off the side of a mountain by helicopter. 2, that I used to be scared of fish until I swam with sharks. And 3, that I once dressed up as Marilyn Monroe and sung Happy Birthday on stage. And the false one was that I haven't been rescued off the side of a mountain by helicopter. Now, I'm not saying that this is never going to happen, but thankfully it hasn't happened so far. So in today's video, I'm going to introduce a very important person. So Andrew is a very good friend of mine and business partner and colleague. Last week, I mentioned the Utopian project that's become a huge part of my life. And we're going to be talking about the conceptualization of this project today. So that's what you can look forward to in today's video. There will also be another sneaky lie for you to watch out for. So what I'd like you to do is to try and listen very carefully. Watch out for those obvious signals because I'm clearly very bad at lying, but who knows, it could be me, it could be him. And then stick the lie in the comments and I will tell you next week whether you were correct. So without further ado, Andrew, I'd like to welcome you. Thank you for coming on the channel today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Eliziam. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, yeah, let's talk about Utopian then, because it's been a crazy journey. We've been working on this together for almost a year now, but actually it goes back even further than that, doesn't it? Maybe you could explain just a little bit about where the idea began.
The idea came from Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, of course.
It's all coming out now. Okay, so maybe just explain for those of us who aren't huge Star Trek fans.
Yeah, sure. So Roddenberry conceptualized an idea that in the future we'll live in a world where we don't have money, that we're not driven and measuring things by money, but instead we exist for the good of mankind. We all co-collaborate, we're all co-creative, we are all supposed to be all kind, and we work together to create the best version of ourselves and the best version of the planet that we can. And of course, look, I'm realistic. I was on a boat on my way to Germany. I had a day to kill, and I just wrote some ideas down. It was never meant to be anything other than something on a piece of paper. It was never actually meant to be turned into something that could become real.
Wow, okay. And so those ideas must have kind of started to germinate at that point. If we fast forward to almost a year ago, I can explain a little bit about what happened at that point, because this is the bit where I come into the picture. So I remember it was the 9th of December, a Wednesday night, and I'd been working away. I was building a website and I was just completely stuck, banging my head against a brick wall. I just didn't know how to do something. And I was very frustrated. I tried to find the answer in lots of different ways and none of them were successful. And I was about to close my laptop, finish for the day, start cooking dinner. And then a notification came up that there was a YouTube live happening. and it was a trainer who had been really, really helpful on YouTube. And I thought, oh, I'll watch it because maybe this guy will be able to help. I'd never watched a YouTube live before, but he was brilliant. I chatted with him directly and I said, I've got this problem. Any ideas how I can fix it? And I remember he said, why don't you ask the community? So I did. I put it in the chat and somebody answered and they said, yes, I have done exactly that and I can help you if you like. And it was you. Thank you.
It was, and I'd never been to one of those YouTube live events ever. And similar story, I was getting ready for supper and it popped into my inbox and I thought, oh, why not? And I clicked on it, and otherwise, it was complete coincidence that I was there. But as you know, with Utopian, that seems to be the way. Meeting people and pieces slotting into place seems to be the way with Utopian.
Well, it's true. When we did meet a few days later, we met on Zoom. There were other striking coincidences as well. So we had both been working on a coaching website. You had finished yours and I was in the progress of it. There was definitely a crossover with our backgrounds, you as a system architect and me as an education technologist. But then we were also doing very similar things in other parts of life as well. Other projects that we were working on definitely had similarities as well. Do you remember that first chat that we had?
I do. Yeah, I do. I remember. And I don't suppose that either of us realised that we would continue to work together in any capacity beyond solving that original problem.
Yeah, I remember at the end of the conversation, you said, oh, lovely to meet you. I hope that we can collaborate in some capacity in the future. And I remember thinking, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't know how. And then fast forward to Christmas and the New Year. I think I messaged you in the New Year and said, Happy New Year. And then you said, oh, I've been working on a white paper. Would you like to have a look at it? Now, at that point, it was our second lockdown in the UK. It was bleak. It was bleak for us anyway. There was homeschooling going on. It was cold. It was dark. And when your paper arrived in my inbox, it was like a flash of brilliance. It was something else to focus on. And what happened next was that we went backwards and forwards with that paper, maybe, I don't know, 10 times, maybe more, I'm not sure, with comments and edits. And it was a really inspiring process. And then I recall at the end of it, I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. I said, you're going to have to write like 10 more papers and here are the titles just as a suggestion. And you said, I think I'm going to need some help. Remember?
I do. And I think, to be honest, it was really around this time that Utopian became a real thing, because up until then I was just writing down ideas, something to share with people. It was a bit of fun. It was almost like a hobby in a way. I didn't expect it to turn into over 100,000 words of academia. I didn't expect it to turn into 2 prototypes. I didn't expect it to turn into our own in-platform currency and trading system. I certainly didn't expect the total state of presence algorithm that we've developed and the 12 months of work has been piled into this. Yeah, it's turned into something physical. What it will become in our lifetime, I don't know, but it's definitely the foundations for something to become bigger. And of course, at the time as well, I was training or just trained as an embraining coach. So some of the things within the philosophy come from embraining. Some of the things come from Grant Suzalu's vision for embraining before sadly he died, where he talks a lot about co-collaboration, communities, co-creativity, being the best versions of ourselves and being the best versions of the community, and what can we go ahead and do with those things together as a group, working together. And huge thanks to people like Dr. Suzanne Henwood and Sarah Carruthers as well for everything that they've added into philosophy through what they taught me around embraining. And as you know, I'm still involved with embraining too. So yeah, it was definitely a big evolution. It was a time of change, and it was a time for us to really take what we had as an idea and turn it into something that became very physical, very tangible.
It's so true. I would say it still is a time of huge change. We're living through a momentous occasion on many different levels. And I love your name dropping, by the way, because yeah, absolutely. These people are very, very, very important to the work that we've been doing. And you have mentioned many different features, and it's because it's such a huge project, it's difficult to narrow it down and to package it in a way which is easy for people to understand. Because don't forget, the people that are watching right now, this is the first taste of what we've been doing. So maybe in order to explain things, I could just go back to that first paper. And I remember you were explaining it. You said, isn't it interesting the way that we live these digital lives and we create these digital assets that are connected to us, but actually they're all over the place. It's a complete mess. So you could be recording podcasts over here, writing papers over here, there's a book over there, taking pictures, all sorts of different digital assets. And yet there isn't really a way to organize everything that we create in one neat package. And we talked about this, and you were saying how it's important, because how can you represent what you are successfully online without being able to show everything about yourself? We talked a lot about digital identities, digital footprints, and how sometimes there are very different elements of our lives, and how they don't necessarily need to be connected, but sometimes it's useful to be able to do that. For example, if you want to validate the professional work that you've done, but also be able to show what kind of person you are in real life as well. Is that a fair introduction to how the idea started?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are certainly, I mean, as you've touched upon, utopian as a philosophy covers a lot of other things, but certainly what you touched upon there are foundational to utopian. The whole idea that we're spread across a large digital presence. So I might be on LinkedIn with a professional profile, I might be on YouTube with videos, I might be on WhatsApp. Well, yeah, WhatsApp for my communications, for that matter. We have a virtual messenger in Utopian. We might be on Twitter or Instagram. Additionally, though, it's also about how not only does it benefit us having all of our things in one footprint, but it benefits communities, because if you consider that you might have a small community of experts in a certain area spread across all of these different social medias and having also their publications in different places, if you can bring all of those together, you create a bespoke being. You create literally something where the sum of the parts are greater. You create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And I think the other thing that comes out of this is something that's very evidence-based. So if you think about our profiles, normally we can say that we're anything. I can go on LinkedIn, I can start a profile that says I'm a brain surgeon. The chances are you'll believe I'm a brain surgeon because I've said I am. But the thing, as you know, about Utopian is that we actually feed in all of the other content and information about you that you want to have fed in. You have control over it, but all of your publications, all of the relevant social media that you've created, everything that you've done as a professional or whatever to support what your profile says, it's there too. So you're creating an evidence base. I say I'm a brain surgeon, and here's all the proof to prove that I'm a brain surgeon.
Now, hang on a minute. Difference. Is that your lie that you're a brain surgeon? Because I'm calling you out straight away on that one.
No, that one's too obvious. Because I actually am not a brain surgeon, and you already knew that. No, that. Yeah, you're right. No, that's not the lie.
So what happened after we'd had this initial meeting, there was this backwards and forwards, and we did end up writing these 10 papers that are enormous, and they will be soon available for everybody to have a look at. But then the development work started, didn't it? After we had come out of that comfortable, fuzzy, warm academic phase where we were just absorbing information from everywhere, and ideas were sparking and we were regurgitating but developing, and it was such a wonderful, comfortable, warm, happy place to be. And then the development stuff started and things went wild. That's been an incredible process as well. And we should give a huge mention to Shoab. We wouldn't be able to have got this far without him.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already done some name dropping, so Shoab should definitely get a mention. And if I know him, he'll definitely watch this video. So hi, Shoab.
Hi, Shoab.
Yeah, he's been as the lead developer. He's been a godsend. He's worked closely with us on creating physical functionality from what and he's led the team beautifully. And what we have today is mostly thanks to him.
Well, that's true, but without your architecture work in there, without the algorithms that you've written that really underpin the philosophy that developed, it wouldn't be there either. So, I think you should take some of that credit for yourself as well.
I think it's a team thing, I had an idea, that's all. You made it something that I took seriously, and we together turned it into something amazing together with Shoab and his team. And as we've already mentioned, Suzanne and Sarah and Grant have all had a bit in there as well. And your papers on economy have been absolutely critical to the development of salt and pepper, have been critical to the development of our trading system and the way that our economics work.
Well, this is interesting, I suppose, because I don't have a background in economics. It's something I was mildly interested in with a passing interest, but at around the same time that we started communicating, I suddenly became interested in cryptocurrency, and I was doing some research into Bitcoin, and I started off learning about Bitcoin mining. Now, I have no idea why. I tried to think about where this interest had come from. And I think that maybe just the video from Voscoin, I think it was, popped up in my YouTube feed. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know about that. So let's see if I can learn something new. So I started learning about blockchain technology and decentralization, and even the process of mining currencies. And I would say that a lot of that kind of inspired that part of the project. It's only a tiny part, but yeah, it fed in. It was just fortuitous that it popped up. The timing was right. So we've talked about how Utopian is an aggregator of social media and a way to e-portfolioize your digital assets, but it is more than that as well. It's a trading system, and it's a way that we can use our resources and our expertise to build communities and to rely on each other. I suppose you could argue that it is the opposite of living in a capitalist society. There is an element of that, but it's more than that. It's about pioneering a new way of trading, something which is more ethical, something which is less demanding on the planet. It brings in all of these different elements. So maybe we should talk about the ability to trade a little bit more. I know when we're having discussions, it always comes down to the same thing: potatoes and haircuts.
Well, I haven't had a haircut, not a proper haircut, for over 2 years, so haircuts are always going to come in. And potatoes, yes, as a currency, why not? I mean, Utopian is quite unique because its trading system is hybrid. You can use anything from cryptocurrency through traditional currencies, right the way through to salt and pepper, which is our on-platform currency. And the benefit of this is that if you're in a country and you're trading in a specific currency to your country, and your economy were to collapse, and I'm not suggesting that it will, that's a different discussion for a different day, and I know that we have some ideas around that. But if it did collapse, it wouldn't affect the economy at all on Utopian. And we have, as you know, Eliziam, we have this system, this trading system within Utopian, which actually, although the price can go up or down, the price is set to how scarce it is, and to your reputation, to how much skill was needed to create it, and so on. And the sliding scale is not that great, so you're not going to get soaring inflation at any point. We've been quite clever in, well, I hope we've been quite clever in the way that we've worked our way around that. I think that on the whole, we've talked a lot about how we believe that people are the most durable, flexible store of wealth. You know, we store wealth in ourselves through knowledge, through experience, through training, through wisdom, through all these different things that we can do. And then we can expend that into energy and use that energy to create things, to create a better community. And if we work within our communities, and I'm not saying that this is across the board. Of course, there are lots of jobs where this won't work. So, you know, when the comments appear below, I'm not saying this works for everything. But there are definitely instances where trading can be fairer, where for example, trading can be shifted more into smaller cottage industry and taken away from the larger conglomerates, especially where those conglomerates might be doing harm. It's also ideal for people who are working in countries where they're perhaps being used at very low prices. They could actually hook into Utopian and do the trading themselves, so they can get a much fairer deal for what they're doing, rather than trusting some sticker on the box that says it's part of a fair trade deal, which, as we know, can sometimes be circumnavigated by clever deal. I'm not saying always, but we do know that it's not always as fair as we perhaps are led to believe. So yeah, but potatoes, definitely the currency of tomorrow.
And we spent a long time talking about this. I mean, we do spend a long time discussing the ideas behind and absorbing different ideas and helping those ideas generate. But I think we were in Luxembourg, weren't we, when we were laying the kind of foundation principles for these economic systems that we've been developing.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was definitely a very important meeting we had in Luxembourg.
And I do want to give a quick shout out to somebody who commented. It was a really, really amazing comment on the first video. It was someone called Gumas Gube. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And I frivolously mentioned in the first video that Utopian was a way of earning for doing the things that we love. I mean, it's far more complex than that. But this person wrote in the comments that we shouldn't just get rewarded for doing the things that we love. We should be rewarded for doing things that are useful. And actually, this comment engaged us in a huge discussion, which developed some of the principles underlying the economic system even more. So we were talking a little bit about the algorithms in terms of stabilizing an economy, but we've even developed an uplift, which allows people to get an extra credit for doing things which are of value to others and not just themselves.
Yeah, and it's interesting you use the word engagement, because that comment, it is an excellent comment, and I think that, you know, it reflected perhaps this idealistic idea that we were trying to put across, that maybe you could just do your hobbies and get paid for it, which was not what we were saying, but I understand why they believe that's what we were saying. The thing is concerned, absolutely. I mean, you know, Utopian is such that we're trying to create a work-life balance, and we're not even necessarily saying, in fact, we're definitely not saying you should be on the phone all the time. Quite the opposite. We think that people should spend time with technology switched off, but we also acknowledge that within Utopian, you might be playing a round of golf or you might be on a riverbank angling, or there's a whole heap of different things you might be doing socially with Utopian. And you can mine our currency doing that. Because our system actually will actually allow you to mine our currency through engagement. However, you shouldn't be able to mine as much currency sitting on a riverbank catching carp or playing a round of golf or whatever it is you're doing, as you should be if you are creating some food for people to eat within your community, or you are creating clothing, or you're doing something even more critical like something to do with medical or whatever. So the whole concept of uplift being introduced into the algorithm was to make it fairer for people who are using Utopian in a way that's critical to the community, rather than just enjoying themselves with a round of golf.
So this is an example of the utopian philosophy in action. So last week I explained that by commenting in the comment section, by generating discussion, that you as the viewers have got the opportunity to feed into what we're doing and to help this thing grow. Because although what you're seeing, or what you're going to see next week, is a very complete, fully working version, it's still hugely essential that we have these discussions and have these debates. So I can only encourage your comments even more. I think, Andrew, that we have given enough of a taster today to encourage people to come along and have a look at the next video, where we will be showing Scribble, the latest utopian example. Scribble is a writers community, and it incorporates different roles within the process of writing. So of course, writers, but also designers and illustrators, editors and readers are encouraged to come together as a very important part of that process. Those people have the ability, the platform, to do collaborative work and to engage with each other, to create. So I'm really looking forward to next week when we can have a look at that together. And don't forget that you should have been able to spot a massive whopping lie that we dropped into our conversation. So I'm looking forward to seeing those in the comments, plus anything else that you want to talk about. There are, of course, all of the usual channels to get in touch. You will find them in the description. Video chat if you want to talk to me directly. Social media links. Andrew, can I put your social media links in there as well?
Please do.
Cool. Okay. And so there is just enough time for me to ask you to take 1 second to like, subscribe, and put the notification bell on. And if you like this channel, don't tell me, tell your friends. I'll see you next time.